Good morning and welcome to another video. We're doing a little commentary over this time lapse of Mora, this piece that I did last month for the company Red Magic. So this piece actually flowed pretty easily and pretty well for me, which is good because I had a really tight deadline for this piece. So I originally was not going to take this commission. I actually told them no like twice. Because they had such a short deadline and I just have a lot going on, but they convinced me because they were willing to pay a little extra for like a rush job, so I ended up just going for it, and the character is super cute, and I'm glad that I did it because not just for the money, but also because I feel like she just turned out really well and she was fun to work on. So I think that something that was like made this piece fun to work on was not only that she's a cute character, but the pose just flowed really well kind of from the beginning. And so if you'll notice at the beginning of this sketch, I did my typical like line of action, angle of the shoulders, angle of the hips, and I made the angle of the shoulders and hips like fairly extreme opposites of each other, and that made for a really kind of curvy girly sort of pose, which goes really well with, you know, the type of stuff that I typically do, so it came pretty naturally. Something that was a little bit different with this piece though was the aspect ratio, because it was very specifically for like a tall phone wallpaper. It's a very tall format. Usually I will work in like print formats, so I like to work in like 11 by 14 sometimes. Yeah, that's kind of my typical ratio, and that's a little bit wider than something like this. And so I kind of battled a bit with balancing between being able to have the character zoomed in enough that we can really see her adorable face and the details, and at the same time not cutting off or having like weird tangents with the edge of the phone. I don't know if I was completely successful with that, but I'm pretty happy with it. Like basically, I didn't want it to feel static, which I think can feel that way if you are trying to squish everything into a narrow sort of space. I still wanted it to feel like she was flowing through the piece, and I think I was pretty successful, but there were multiple times through the process where I was kind of worried about it. Like here, I'm kind of redrawing the arm because I'm not sure, like, I don't know, that back arm gave me a little bit of trouble. It felt like even here, at this point in the process, it feels like it's too close to the edge of the screen. It's like, you know, the thing about tangents is it's bad if a line is meeting or intersecting perfectly with another line. It's also bad if it's just like uncomfortably close. So even if it's not right on, if it's uncomfortably close, it's still not very good design. So you have to give enough like breathing room and space for stuff to just not feel uncomfortable. But anyway, moving on to like her outfit and stuff. So this was kind of interesting. I've realized that I don't tend to draw very complicated like outfits and stuff. And this character, not that her outfit is too complicated, but it did have like quite a few little details that I'm just not used to drawing, especially when it came to like little lines or metal sort of details in her leg, robot leg things, and also in just like her collar. I just don't usually draw. It's actually something good to think about because I just don't usually draw that many like little details, and her outfit's not even that complicated. I've seen characters with way more complicated outfits than her, but it revealed to me kind of something that I've neglected, and so I wonder if I should try doing some like fashion and outfit studies. Maybe that could be fun. Not sure when I'm gonna fit that in, but I think it could be a fun challenge to do something like that. Hey, maybe we could make it an actual challenge. Could be good. Anyway, so I went in and I was trying to get everything, all the flats, as precise as possible. And you'll notice that I didn't do every single detail on the line art because I realized that I thought it would be probably cleaner to just do some of the details and mock them up with the flat colors. And I think it was a good approach to do. So with this commission, I actually at this point still have not sent it in to the client yet. So usually I will want to send in like a sketch, but you know my sketches tend to be very, very rough, you guys. And so when I'm working with a client, I prefer to clean it up a bit, which because this sketch had been so rough, I actually put in the flat colors and everything first. And at this point, the sketch was approved, so I'm adding shadows. Fortunately, they did approve the sketch and it was all good. So now I'm adding in the shadows, blocking in the shadows. We're using that same method I tend to use. I use a hard light layer mode to put in the first pass of shadows. I use a hard brush to brush it in, and then I come in with a softer, like smudgy watercolor brush to soften it up and do a little bit more sculpting. If you want more details on that, definitely check out some of my tutorials on shading, and I think I also go over it in the actually in the brushes video as well. I have like a very mini tutorial on how to do that, so check that out when you go download the brushes. But anyway, at this point she is looking pretty good. It's all about refining. And what's crazy about this stage, it's always crazy at this stage. I don't know if you guys have this issue. I'm guessing that most artists have this issue because it's a common rule where the last 20% of a piece will take 80% of the time. Now, it's not a perfect rule, especially in this piece. Like, I can literally see the timeline now. We don't have, 80% more time left. But it is interesting that the last section of the artwork that involves like refining and paint over and maybe extra rendering, it always takes longer than you expect. I think that's good to keep in mind, because I know that I kind of will beat myself up for, I'm so slow, why is this taking so long to finish? So I completely understand that if you guys struggle with that, man, I'm right there with you. So it's good to remind ourselves every once in a while that it's okay, like this is common. It's the last part, even if it's small, refining details, always takes more time than you expect. And that's also good for planning. It's good to remember that when you're planning out, okay, I want to finish this piece, I want to do this piece this week, I need to do all of this list of things. Well, maybe consider giving yourself a little extra time because things always take longer than you think. But anyway, so at this point it is just refining little details, and I do have a basic like color gradient in for the background, but I actually want to start thinking about a little bit more details in the background. And like when I get to a point where it's like, okay, this piece is getting pretty close to being done, I really need to start thinking about the background. If I haven't done that already, that's when I will move into that and start seeing like, will this make the piece feel more complete? So I start doing these types of things where it's like, what will make the piece feel more complete? And I will be thinking this in my mind, and then I'll be like, oh, background, let's go and like work on like adding some details to the background. Oh, magic, let's work on refining the magic. And so that's kind of how I start approaching things. And then you get to the point where it's like kind of the best part, to be honest. I love adding little shiny bits. And so this is kind of what happened. And for the background, by the way, I kind of followed the process of grabbing a night scene and just blurring the shit out of it and putting it in as like a soft layer mode. So if you go and check out my background hacks tutorial, you can learn a little bit about how I do that. But anyway, once I get to like this point right here where it's like, okay, this is basically done, there's just a little bit more to do, I start trying to add a little bit more like ambient lighting and little, now I'm adding logos, but details. Like I want her hair to feel like it's fading a little bit into the background, it's behind her, so I added a little bit of color over top. And then I start adding in like little bits of details, like particles, textures, shiny bits. And that's kind of how I approach it when I'm at the close to the end of a piece anyway. Anyway, that time lapse went really fast. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope this commentary added a little bit of understanding to how I approach my process. You can probably hear a cat in the background. Also, I don't know if you can hear it in the audio, but Mochi was purring really close to my face almost the whole time, so I'll be interested to hear if there are cat purrs during most of this commentary. But anyway, have a wonderful rest of your day, you guys. Happy drawing!